What's up, Rockstars? Today's a big update for you guys. We have some campaigns that are on their last leg, that multi-million-dollar ones, so we got a whole bunch to cover there. We have some drastic changes to some that you helped cause, that is because of you guys. We have a little bit of drama to go over, a little this, a little that, talk about CMON and their latest weaponized FOMO tactic, and just stuff like that. So let's just dive in. There's a lot here. I'm not going to make a huge fuss about it, but the shirt is awesome. It's from Into the AM. There's a link down below. You can help support the channel. Get a cool shirt. Link down below. Guys, there is something we really need to discuss. Starting things out, I just want to have a quick shout out, I guess, to the whole team at Reaper, and of course, Edward Pugh, I believe his name is, his family, and just my heart reaches out to them. It's so sad. Anytime we lose, I think one of the members of this community. We're such a tight-knit group, and it's amazing to be at least a small, tiny, fairly insignificant part of that, as opposed to Edward, who was huge. I mean, president and CEO of Reaper Miniatures, that is massive. That's huge. So, yeah, just it's always sad to see that happen. It's a loss for everybody. And then again, but if you have any outstanding things with Reaper or whatever, let them kind of recover it. Let them kind of handle their stuff, and maybe give them a little bit of time. And of course, condolences to his family. It's just terrible to see. It's especially around this time of year. It's just no fun. Let's talk about Elden Ring. This will be a little bit more fun, so that's good. We're gonna kind of switch gears a little bit. Almost 10,000 backers, and that's before the 48-hour mark. 2,856,000, definitely quite well. I don't think it's as good as it could have been, but that's probably something more for a post-mortem, to kind of look back on the campaign and what maybe could have happened, how they could have structured things to maybe have made some better. Maybe I'll make a dedicated video of that. Let me know if you'd be interested in that. I certainly have some thoughts around that. But no, not a bad deal either, especially for something that's going to go to retail anyway. They're going to make a bunch of money in retail. So the Kickstarter at this point for SFG, I believe, is kind of like CMON, where it's like, may as well throw it on there. But for the most, same with Archon Studio, right? They have a good retail presence, and so Kickstarter is more of icing on the cake than the cake itself. At least that's how I feel, though I don't know their financials at all. That being said, we did it, guys. We did it. Look at this. Textured bases. If you don't know, I had a conversation with Sherwin, the designer of Elden Ring, actually, and he was a great guy to talk to. And one of the things I brought up was, have you guys thought of textured bases? And he's like, yeah, we've kind of thought about it. I was like, okay, well, I mean, I want textured bases, right? I mean, because you're going to be supporting this game for years. And unless you don't want your minis to match the original ones, for years, you're going to have these flat bases. And all of your competitors have these, sculpted bases. Even the cheap games these days are starting to get those. It's really still just one mold, so it's not like you're necessarily taking up too much more. Now, each mold will be different than a flat disc that's just one single mold, but either way, shouldn't increase costs too much. I bet with Elden Ring, you guys can do it, right? And he's like, well, hey, if you guys want it, I guess, let us know. And you guys did. I made the video as I said I would, and you guys let them know, hey, this would be great. And so they add to the FAQ, they talked to From Software, they got approval, bam, look at this. This is wonderful. Now, let's say you were one of the people, there's a few of you out there, there's dozens, I'm sure, right? That want flat bases because they want to base it and do all that stuff. No problem at all. Here's a trick, and this will help you throughout your entire Kickstarter backing board game experience, really, because you can also fix minis that aren't assembled well this way. I've done it before. Throw them in the freezer. Just take the mini and toss it in the freezer. Chuck it in there if you want. It doesn't matter. If it breaks from that, you didn't want it anyway. It's a piece of crap. Okay, so you put the PVC mini in there, and what that does, you wake up the next morning, and you can actually take the base, take the mini, and boop, pop it right off. Shouldn't even be that difficult. What it does is it makes the super glue like glue that they use on almost every single one I've ever tried, but I've heard a few out there maybe don't do that. But 99% of the time this is going to work. It makes the glue very brittle. The plastic doesn't change at all, doesn't care. So what happens is that glue becomes like light and flaky, right? Because it's like frozen, and you can just break where that glue is, trim off the glue a little bit, you have a completely clean, unassembled thing. You can put it on a flat base if you want, like it was brand freaking new. You can also do that if it was assembled bad, like the head's cockeyed or whatever. You just snap the head off, clean it up, put it right back on. Works wonders. So it takes like no time at all. It's super easy if you want to do clear bases, stuff like that. I know some of you like that, but these sculpted bases look fantastic, and it definitely is an improvement on the game, in my opinion, because by default, it already looks better. You want to make it look super nice, you can certainly do that, but by right now, every single picture you ever see of Elden Ring will look better than it was going to, because by default, they have these texture bases. I think that's wonderful. That's great. So good news on that. We win. All right, next up, we have BattleFx Defenders of Humanity. This is a quick shout out. I have a GameWork Create sponsorship as well. They do amazing miniatures. So if you want him to print this out and ship it to you, you can do that as well. Or if you have a 3D printer, you can do this. It'll just take a little bit of your time. All I'm showing is that BattleFX does this stuff for like Star Wars Legion, Warhammer, stuff like that, where but I mean, you can use them for all sorts of things, where they have like muzzle flashes and stuff like that, but they do so much more. Like here's a tank getting blown up and its top like popping off, or these like wonderful missile launches and stuff like that. Just really cool stuff. Definitely neat. Highly recommended. Moving on from that, we have Heroes of Might and Magic 3. This actually has now finished, so congratulations to them. They raised 3,384,000 euros from 26,993, almost 27,000 people. That's before the pledge manager. That'll just go up. In fact, often, depending on how many expansions you have, this one doesn't have that many, but you can even double the amount of funding in pledge managers. I've seen it done before. This one probably won't, just because of how many things you can add on. A lot of times people will be like, oh, towards the end, I'm going to start adding on more stuff to my pledge. You get a lot of that kind of stuff. So not so much, because there wasn't a whole lot on offer, but there are some. They're going to have a healthy PM. They're doing just great. So I would expect closer to 5 million euro by the time they are done cashing checks and then paying people to print it and stuff like that. So kudos to Archon. They definitely did a great job on that. That's fantastic. One of the other things that was kind of interesting is they had a really lackluster 3 million like super stretch goal or whatever, where they essentially released an add-on, which is, I've never seen it go over well. They're like, hey, we weren't going to do this. There are more factions. We're going to go in and make one ahead of time. We're going to bust our butts and do it so you guys can have it, but you'll have to add it as an add-on after the campaign. People are like, that's kind of a crappy, like, yay, celebrate stretch goal. So they responded and like asked for feedback and stuff like that. And they did add stuff, and that's awesome. Another thing they did do is we got 2 dragons. So that's awesome as well. Those will be fun to paint, I imagine. So excited for that for sure. Either way, they did great. That was awesome. The Last of Us, 61 hours of time recording. They are almost done. Again, all this is linked down in the description below, of course. Almost at 1 million. They were hovering around 500 for so long, and now before the 48, now they're suddenly at 864. One of the things I want to update you with is they now have all of the miniatures, so you can kind of see them all here. Well, this isn't all of them because they have like this clicker as well, but all the like player characters, they've now sculpted them. Again, these are renders, not the final mini. It will look different. These are very much unrealistically sculpted when it comes to very fine details and stuff like that. But still, they look great. I like them. They're very true to the source. One thing they were asking is if Bill should not have a mask on. So if you have an opinion on it, go and let him know. He's the only one with the mask. And while I think he looks cool with the mask, in a group photo like that, I could see why he kind of stands out a little bit. So maybe that's good, maybe that's not. Feel free to let them know. They are definitely asking for feedback, which is cool and great for them to do. They only have so much more time. Almost 8,000 backers, by the way. Forged. My goodness. It's launched 3 times now. It moved from GameFound to Kickstarter, and guess what? It started working. Or BackerKit, from BackerKit to Kickstarter, and it started working. Imagine that. 145,000 raised, over 1,000 backers. That's huge. That's a good milestone for them. They have unlocked so many more. So let's go on and talk about them real quick, just so you can see the new stretch goals. I'll try to show you guys an updated view each time. So last time they stopped right here at these awesome orc hunters. So since then they've got a large giant ape. He looks fantastic. Love his tusks. Got a dwarf paladin, a flayer wizard, an insectoid druid, and then this large green hag, which looks fantastic as well. They're at over 101 minis right now for just $120. So they're doing very, very well. And this is definitely a better deal. A lot more unique sculpts and a lot more interesting sculpts, in my opinion, too. So they're doing very, very good right now. And glad to see them finally kind of get it working, because I was kind of working. If you didn't know Broken Anvil, they kind of paused their Patreon and everything to like do this kind of stuff. So I was really rooting for them. Runar launched. This is a new one on the channel. This is by Ludus Mana Studio. They just launched this today at the time of recording. Over 120,000 raised, 846 backers. Definitely quite good. Certainly nothing crazy though either. So let's, I guess, kind of discuss that. First of all, this is, I think, their 4th outstanding one now that they've delivered DEI. And in my opinion, it looks kind of like the typical Ludus Mana Studio production, which for a lot of people it works. For me, it always feels like it's too much. DEI just surprised me in that it felt quite streamlined. But that was a prototype version too. Maybe that's why I liked it. So, but the jury's still out. I haven't tabled my copy yet. It came pretty late, as you know. So, hopefully I'll get to that here soon. It might be after the move though. Either way, this is one of those things where it just looks like there's all the stuff in the kitchen sink thrown at it. And what I mean by that is Eric Lang, before he taught politics, he used to talk games. And so he used to talk about kind of game design a lot. And one of the things he talked about was you get to this point where you have these ideas, but they don't necessarily work in that game, but they're a good idea. And so you put them into another game. Or you have your game and you're happy with it and everything's your little baby, but you kind of have to start getting rid of your babies, which sounds terrible, but it's because you're so attached to what you've done. And to distill it down to just what works as streamlining in it. That's how he does things, and that's why Blood Rage is like the way it is and stuff like that. That's not to mean everybody has to do that, but I felt like Runar never got to that step. They just said, here's everything we want to do with it, and we're just shipping it, and we're not trimming nothing. So there's no trimming. So if you like the fat on your steak, that's great. If you like to cut it off, it might not be for you when it comes to streamline stuff like that. It tends to be me. And honestly, this doesn't look that bad, but it does have a lot of moving parts on your dashboard, a lot of tokens and stuff like that. One of the best dwarf sculpts I've seen, by the way. This guy is fantastic. I love the art style of these minis to a very large degree. I mean, they look really, really nice. And this guy here, he looks great. There's a painted version. I'll show you him down below as well. But yeah, just, you know, by all means do it. I'm not backing it, so, you know, I'm not going to lie and say I am or something like that. But if it's for you, you go right ahead and you have a blast with it. I think they're doing okay financially. That'll be kind of a subject in this video about just, you know, how's the company doing? How safe are they in today's day and age? Here's that mini, by the way. It looks fantastic. So we'll be discussing that for a little bit. But yeah, overall, I think this is fine. You should be good there. One thing they are doing, by the way, this will be another thing. And they've done this before. Let's see. Where is it? Show it to me. It's a $1 backer thing. Okay. Is it possible to make a $1 pledge access a pledge manager later? All the no reward pledges will be considered donations and will not give access to the pledge manager with the same benefit as pledge for reward. You'll be able to get into the pledge manager along with everybody else afterwards, but you get no benefit for the $1 except to follow along. So it'll be kind of at a higher price, if that makes sense. That is good and bad. There's worse examples, and we're going to be discussing that later in the video. But I guess the major point is that if you're leaning into the FOMO stuff, if you're leaning into the back now, only 9 days to go, back now, to get your game and make money on your game, I feel like you've kind of already failed. I feel like at that point you messed up somewhere, right? Or you're just like hyper greedy, one or the other. And I'm not trying to say LMS is greedy per se. I'm just trying to say I don't think they need to rely on that. There's not going to be, I think, a lot of people that feel they need to back at $1 or want to back at $1, see that it'll become more expensive if they do that. They have to either pony up the money now or essentially get screwed over. They're just going to leave. Is all they're going to do, and you're going to take their $1, I guess, and give them nothing for it. The one thing that bothers me is you won't even they have the audacity where they won't even put that $1 towards it. They will literally just take the $1. If you back for $1, even if you give them money later, they're still going to pocket that $1 and charge you more because you will never get that $1 back. You donated it to the company. They are now work off donations. Hopefully they're filing their taxes appropriately on that donated dollars. It just seems messed up. If you're so focused on nickeling and diming and getting every last drop that you feel like you can, I feel like you're just going to drive away more people than you do. Let me know if you think otherwise, but it's kind of my opinion on that. If it just deal with it. Everybody else does. Most of your competitors still will put that $1 in the pledge manager. The fact that you won't even give the $1 in the PM is rather pathetic, in my opinion, and kind of as penny pinching as you can get, considering the dollar is the minimum amount you can fund on Kickstarter. You're literally taking every last drop that you can and trying to make the most out of it. And I just feel that's not a good attitude to have. I feel like it's not a good tactic to use. I feel like it doesn't actually work, and in fact does worse, not better. I don't see it. Now let's see how much they're making. 847 backers. And right now they have 165. Oh man, they got too many. 150. It's all spread out. I don't know. You'd have to add these up, and then however much is less than 847, that's how many dollars they just got donated to them. If you are a dollar backer of Runar, either drop it or pony up, one or the other. Don't write it with a dollar. They don't want your dollar. Well, I guess they do want your dollar. They're going to keep your dollar. Don't give them a dollar. If you're going to back later, just back later then, and keep your money. They shouldn't make their backer count go lower if that's what they want. I guess I don't know. It seems dumb. I don't like it. I just don't like the whole attitude. The Thinning Veil, 597 backers, over 100,000 raised. So congrats on that. That's huge. 12 hours to go. They're obviously not going to fund. I know they don't like YouTubers saying that, and we're all negative or whatever. It's realistic. It just is what it is. It's better to realize reality and then focus on reality instead of talking nonsense, in my opinion. So let's talk reality, which is you're not going to make $80,000 suddenly in 12 hours in the middle of the night in the US. So with that in mind, what could be done better? What could be, well, I mean, I think the big thing is again, not being so focused on, well, I guess a lack of putting the effort up front and not just making a game. It's not like a if you make it they will come kind of situation. I know a lot of times people are focused on like backer kit and all these other things and the algorithm to show up higher in Kickstarter lists and all that. If that's what you're relying on to sell your game, you've already messed up. Again, it's the same kind of thing where you're fundamentally at a bad spot. In fact, I was talking about this with a patron because they showed like the backer kit view of this, and what it does is it shows how much money they've made per dollar. And one thing they noticed was the Thinning Veil made quite a bit of money, a percentage of their total funding in the lag part of it. In other words, people were discovering the game that they hadn't heard of before, which sounds good, but it's actually terrible. In my opinion, you don't want that to ever happen. If you found out that there was somebody who didn't know about your game and just stumbled across it, you could have done better at marketing. The whole point is you let them know beforehand, well beforehand, so that they're there day one. It very much should, and I think a healthy game should show almost all the funding at the very beginning and very end, and a severe lull in the middle. Because if people are finding that, all that means is you didn't go to the right websites or the right people, or get the word out, or be on the right forums, or posting on social media enough, or doing whatever it was, running ads, whatever it might be, sending out prototypes, all that kind of stuff. Right? That is what you do to get funded. It's not just creating a thing. I often say this, but there are two different skill sets you need to succeed. And not just get funded, but succeed as in deliver and make profit and run a company and have money as a business to keep doing what you want to do. There's the creative side and there's the business side. And those are two very different skill sets. Some people have both. Most often you have one or the other. It's very kind of left brain, right brain in a lot of ways. And it's just kind of naturally at odds, right? The business wants to make as much money as possible, spending as little as possible, right? That's the idea, is be as profitable as possible. That's a lot of like S's and P's and B's in there. Sorry about that. But and the creative side is like, well, I just want to throw everything in there and be passionate about it and give everything for free. And I wouldn't want people to miss this. So that's going in the core game. We're not selling that apart, or, that kind of thing. And I've talked with many groups that have this, that have kind of that partner mentality where one guy's a creative and one guy or gal, it doesn't matter, is the business side of things. And together they form Voltron as long as they actually work together. In other words, the creative is willing to push on things that they think is right, but give in to things that they know is okay. And the business side knows when to, put a foot down and when to kind of relent. Because you need to be creative enough to be different and be interesting and have value, but then you have to be reserved enough to be realistic, right? And actually make money and stuff like that. And I feel like the Thinning Veil is all creative. You can tell that by their updates. And their updates, they like talk to themselves and do all this kind of stuff. Very passionate, very creative, but that doesn't get you funded. That doesn't, and even once you're funded, that doesn't make it to where you've made this complex game in China with thousands of different components and all these kind of different things, and then shipping it out to everybody across the entire world. That is an incredibly difficult thing to do and an incredibly large task. And I've spoken with creatives that have had to endure that, and they've seemed almost defeated. They're like, I know so much about VAT law and 3PLs and logistics and, you know, the costs of all these different materials. And it's stuff that the creative person doesn't even want to focus on. So it's so hard to do. It's hard to do. These Kickstarters are hard, guys. It is. And keep that in mind as we're going forward in this update. But that's my opinion on that. I've spent enough time on that. I look forward to round 2 of the Thinning Veil, and I wish them the best of luck. On the Underground Paris, New York, this just recently ended. I wanted to get this out in time, but you know, it's whatever. Hopefully, if you're looking at this and you're from Europe, you're thinking, oh, I have not backed that. If you backed that, you made a mistake. You've made a huge mistake. Europe-based backers, please check the fulfillment section. Well, let's go on down there. Let's do the big old scroll. It's here. Okay, Europe-based backers. Shipments to backers in the EU, UK, and the rest of Europe is not possible through this campaign. This is due to the lack of EU, UK VAT collecting and accounting function on Kickstarter. To make a long story short, this is our first campaign after the summer of 2021, when new regulations for VAT accounting came into force. You'll notice I've talked about this at length in previous videos with the whole shipping thing and all that, and how some companies got their pants caught with their pants down when it comes to VAT. This is why. These regulations include, among others, rules for platforms that facilitate e-commerce. According to those rules, the website that you charge money on needs to charge VAT, okay? So that Kickstarter, as an American company, has not done that, may never do that. We'll see. Kickstarter won't do half the crap we want them to do anyway. So they're busy trying to avoid the current American taxes. I don't think they're even giving thought into UK taxes or EU taxes or anything with VAT, all those other countries that do it. Okay, so that's kind of that on there. Our accountants have indicated that doing this in post-campaign pledge management platform is not compliant either, as VAT needs to be reported quarterly, and it may be a while and in another fiscal year until we can use a pledge management platform to charge VAT. Excuse me, sorry. Okay. BS. That's all it is. And the reason I say this is because this company is not in a void. Let me make sure I get the name right. It is Ludi Creations. Ludi Creations has a bunch of competitors on Kickstarter right now running just fine. So obviously it's possible. I don't know if these companies aren't talking to each other. I don't know if they, I mean, so anytime I go into a new kind of area, or I'm like in something, like I tend to find or seek a mentor. In other words, somebody who's been here a while, that's done all this stuff, and I just leech onto them whether they like it or not, typically. Like, that's just kind of the way I work, because it's so beneficial. I've never actually had an issue with it. Nobody's like been like, no, you know, stop asking questions and being better. You know, like nobody typically does that. I'm trying not to ask too many questions, but seriously, I don't know if there's like forums you guys can go to, or chat groups, or social media groups, or something, but talk to some of your competitors, talk to some of your peers, and figure out how they're doing it and do that, because everybody else is doing it but you. So obviously the issue's on your side. Now, the other thing I think is very odd is this accountant here. And I don't mean to make air quotes to make fun of, like, oh, are they really accountant? I just mean, I don't think every accountant really looks at the big picture here, apparently, because I don't think they do. Because one of the things is what they're saying, and this is kind of true, is you have to like do it the quarter that you report it quarterly, right? Okay, so if you just got a whole bunch of money, like how much money did they make? Let's find out. They just got $77,864 minus 5% plus another 4%, 5% goes to Kickstarter, 4% for processing fees and all that kind of stuff, okay? So they just made, let's say, $70,000. Why not? Make it easy. They're not spending all $70,000 right now. That is $70,000 to make this game over the course of at least a year, if not more, when it comes to paying wages, when it comes to production, when it comes to shipping and all that kind of stuff. So they have the money. In other words, they are already taking something for something they have to spend later. So the concept of having to have VAT paid and then getting VAT later shouldn't be that big of an issue unless you suspect that a rampant amount of your backers are going to not want your game and refund it all. You should be able to pay that out of the current funds you have and then collect it afterwards. It's a very set amount. You should just, hey, it's 20%, 19%, whatever it is for those countries. You charge that or you pay that, and then you charge it to them with the shipping and all that other kind of stuff. This isn't rocket science here. If I can figure this out, why can't you? It doesn't make any sense. If you are I feel like sometimes these companies just feel so siloed. Like if you're the only one saying this is impossible and everybody around you is saying, no, we're doing it just fine, maybe it's you. Maybe you should like say, hey, dude, hey, how'd you do that? How'd you sell to Europeans? To Europeans? I kid. I don't know what they're talking about there. That's a silliness. That's what that is. That's goofy. Hopefully none of you didn't notice that. Let's talk about, come on. Cthulhu Death May Die. Ooh, I backed at $1. Thankfully, because I know a few of my patrons who are stuck with a $100 pledge and paying 3/4 of that in VAT plus shipping. So that sucks. And I don't mean that in like, I'm not trying to make fun of them. Like that does suck. It really sucks. That's why it's $1. Now, that sucks because that dollar means it's a donation to other companies, but CMON is apparently better than Ludus Madness Studio. CMON is better than you, and they actually gave me my $1, which is wonderful. That's great. Thank you, CMON, for not just stealing my $1. Jeez. Donation. Okay, so CMON, as we know, loves playing around with shipping and loves spinning all sorts of spin on their comments about not making profit off that because it's just assigned to other costs. But we all know that doesn't mean, they're not saying we charge the exact amount that we pay. They've never said that. It was, we don't make a profit. Yeah, well, that's easy to do as a company. There are whole companies that run entire things and pay themselves to do all this stuff and still don't make money. It's magic. Okay, what they've done is, and I've covered this briefly before, I wanted to kind of show it here. I think it'll be kind of fun to show it. I live in Idaho, and in Idaho, the shipping for a unknowable pledge is $45.30. If you are lower, I hate you. If you're higher, ha, take that. I kid. But no, seriously, what they tend to do is what I would say weaponize shipping. And what I mean by that is they are using shipping to drive more sales. In other words, they're using that as something they're using, right, to be better as a business, but not like a cut costs and stuff like that and lower the term. What I mean by that is right now I'm paying almost half of my pledge just to ship the core box plus the stretch goals to me, okay? And I understand people love the whole shipping thing and hate when I point this stuff out. but just watch this. So it's $45.30 for that. Now let's actually change my pledge. Let's get everything. And that means that I'm adding this, I'm adding this, I'm adding this, I'm adding this, I'm adding this. And I think I'm adding this. I think the only thing I'm not getting is the giant, a child-sized mini. But it's still quite a bit, right? So let's switch pledge levels. Let's go to the 210. So this one is getting me the Season 4 expansion, 2 exclusive relics, and 1 limited insanity that comes with Season 4. That name, the Windwalker expansion, Kickstarter exclusive Animal Allies expansion, and all unlocked stretch goals. So quite a bit more, wouldn't you say? Yeah, okay, that's fine. Okay, so I'm gonna have to get started here. I'm gonna have to say, no, I don't want you to send me marketing stuff, though you will anyway. And now, it's 55. Remember, it was 45. $10 more, and I've pretty much doubled the size and the weight of my shipment. Yeah, they do this on purpose, where they essentially are, because when it comes to like shipping in general, you kind of have to look at it big picture anyway. It's pretty much impossible to say like exactly the amount I need to pay is actually what's paying, because you're subsidizing, you're changing things around, you're moving things over, you're having some people pay extra, so some people pay less, and it's all funny money anyway, right? But what they're doing with this funny money is getting a little funny with it. All right, so in other words, what they're saying is like, oh, hey, it's just like $10 more if you want to do that. Because what they don't want you to do is see your costs like double, or it wouldn't actually double, but it would raise more than perhaps $10, more than maybe, like less than a fourth of what the cost was, considering you're not shipping this now, you're shipping this, right? Like that costs more to ship. We all know that we can ship things. So with that in mind, what they're wanting you to do is not see the increase in shipping that would normally cost and then say, never mind. They want you to spend more. But it gets actually better than that because there's other things that happen to you. Let me go back to 100. I'm going to tell you exactly what one of my patrons discussed. And I can't blame them here, but I know what CMON's doing too. And they're very smart. I mean, they're not dumb. They're not. I'm giving them nothing but compliments when I talk about how manipulative they can sometimes be. So I'm stuck here spending $45 shipping a $100 game, which is kind of poo-poo, right? I mean, that's just crappy shipping. And I'm not saying they're overcharging on that either. I'm just saying it's crappy shipping. It's just a crappy amount of money compared to what I'm paying for the game. Okay, but look at this. I can add an extra pledge, right? I'll add an extra pledge. It only went up to 66. Now, first of all, that's more than the 55, which is silly, right? So obviously they're not accurate in their numbers anyway, because I've just doubled it, but I didn't double my price. But also it's less than the big thing that does double the price. So it's whatever. It's whatever. It's $66. That's not an extra 45. So I can add just a little bit more in shipping and get a double pledge and just sell that extra pledge to make up for the shipping cost and that extra one, right? Make it for profit. That's actually very true. You can totally do that. I know tons of you have commented. Let me know down below if you do that. Go ahead and check. See how many people say this. I swear there's going to be quite a few that say this, that you buy an extra copy to sell online to pay for that. People do it for PS5s. People do all sorts of stuff. Buy 2 PS5s, sell one, it pays for the other one, right? Because you were able to sell for more than you paid for it. Same concept here. But CMON just doubled their sales. They just got you to buy 2 because while you're looking at this and focused on, oh, it went from only 45 to 66. Yeah, your 145 also went to 265. So they're pretty happy about it. They don't care what you do afterwards. Sell it secondhand. What do they care? They already got their money because you paid again. That's the idea. That's the idea is you make it to where it just makes sense to, you essentially punish as much as possible the lowest amount and reward as much as possible the highest amount. That's what they're doing through shipping. They've weaponized shipping. Congratulations, CMON. You are very, very smart in how you can try and bleed us dry. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about Werewolf the Apocalypse Retaliation, and really, let's talk about Flyos. Now, disclaimer here, I have actually reached out to them. I do try to do that, by the way, ever since kind of my shipping thing, and then kind of, I did one that, I think it said a KOA's full crap, I think was a video there. I was kind of very self-reflective and self-critical in that video, and thank you so much for the comments in that. But I'm trying to do better as somebody who views himself as just a dude with a camera. I know you guys say I'm not. You guys throw the word like journalist out there and stuff like that, but like, it's hard for me, but I am trying. So I do reach out to companies periodically when I feel like I need to either hear from them or at least let them know, hey, this is coming out. But just kind of, hey, do you have a comment? Flyos, by the way, was awesome and responsive, being very quick in response too, which is commendable to them. Multiple responses. They give me quite a bit of time, of their time, and I do appreciate that, to answer questions, clarify things, stuff like that. And while we don't necessarily agree with each other, and that's fine too, as the critic and the thing I'm criticizing, that's kind of how our roles have to be sometimes. They were very professional with all of their comments and responses. So that's great. I think that's awesome. Okay, and I'll include kind of their side of things too. So Werewolf the Apocalypse, by the way, $600,000 is no small amount. 3,000 backers with still 40 hours ago. Again, that is linked down below. Feel free to follow that link. I'm not backing it though. I'm a little cagey. You see, as somebody who makes videos, and I don't know if you notice this or not, but you guys often comment about the negativity of these videos. And yeah, a lot of them are pretty negative. There's not a whole lot of people covering the negative parts of things. And so I don't feel necessarily bad being the one of just a small handful of people that do cover that. I think it's important to talk about negative things, of course. And that, hey, somebody has to do it, right? I mean, I guess somebody doesn't have to, but I think it's good for an industry if they do. But really, I don't like the negative stuff. Believe it or not, I didn't get in this hobby and spend all of this absorbent amount of time and money because I want to hate on something. I could do that for free online. I'm a hot-blooded American. I can go on social media right now and hate a whole bunch of stuff. But I actually kind of don't like doing that. It is so saddening to be as passionate as I am about this industry, enough to run this stupid YouTube channel on it, and have to talk about this crappy situations these companies find themselves in, these that backers find themselves in, that everybody involved. This is a crappy situation, right? One way or the other, both sides are upset. It sucks. It does. And I have made so many videos this year. Failed, canceled, refunds, asking for more money, begging, all this other kind of stuff. Going out of business, selling off stuff. Name a bad situation for a company or for a consumer, and I have covered it with these. And I'm out money too. Guys. I have paid these companies. Luckily, I avoided blacklist games. So luckily, I avoided piercing games, but I did not avoid mythic games. I'm probably about $1,000 into that, guys. So I'm right there with you when I feel so trapped in that I value confidence really, really high. It's why I kind of made the video I did on Elden Ring, because while I think it's a little overpriced compared to the deal I would like it to be, and not talking into what you're getting in that, just talking raw like cost versus what you're getting even, it's higher. It is higher. But I actually almost kind of like that, because I also have no doubt that SFG will deliver that to me. And I can't have no doubt on a lot of other companies. And so I'm very sketchy, very skittish, very worried about that. Now, that's not fair to a lot of indies, any indie. That's not fair to all the first-time creators. That's not fair to just a lot of companies that want to kind of ride the edge and don't want to make a whole lot of money, but still want to be successful. I mean, like, I get it. I get it. And it's a crappy situation, but it's where I am right now. It's where I am with my dollars. It's why I'm doing these dollar pledges. That's why the moment I see LMS doesn't want $1 and requires me to pay more, they just lost it. I'm never backing that campaign. I am too scared. I'm scared. Notice that in all of these, right? Heroes of Might and Magic, $1. Even with Archon Studios, just $1. I'm only putting my money into one, and right now that one is the core game of Elden Ring. And that's it. I will play the Pledge Manager game. I will spread it out as I gain confidence and all that kind of stuff. But seriously, guys, like, this is where I'm at right now. So let's talk about Werewolf, the Apocalypse. Let's talk about Flyos. So Werewolf here, last days of the campaign, right? This is posted on November 28th. Comments about this. We've been asked this question a few times, and if they're asking, it's because it's not straightforward. Backers who contribute to $1 pledge will get what? Well, you will have access to the Pledge Manager. The game will be sold at the same price as here on Kickstarter. So already better than LMS. Good job. That's a low bar to do, but good job. Like, LMS is right now the bottom tier of what I'm happy with right now. However, the Kickstarter exclusive Monster Pack miniatures will not be included. This will be available as an extra on the PM. Supporting the game on Kickstarter means giving the team all the leeway possible when we need it most. A game of this magnitude requires time, talented artists, and a supportive community. That's why these stretch goals exist. Yes, you heard that right. You get no stretch goals if you back after this campaign. If you don't back in the super quick campaign, no stretch goals for you. Now, this kind of reminds me of map packs on like Call of Duty and stuff like that. Do you remember those in like the 360 era kind of thing? The kind of the PS3 360 era? If not, let me explain real quick. One of the reasons they don't do that anymore is because in a multiplayer game, if you start selling parts separately to where some people who purchased it can play in there, but otherwise they can't, it separates your players into two tiers. And it means that they're only playing with each other here, and then sometimes they play with them over here. But what it really also does is create a classification, create a thing where sometimes you would like go into a lobby, and if you didn't have the DLC, you would get kicked out. Nope, you're not good enough. You're not with one of us. You should never, ever, in my opinion, separate your consumer base like that, especially not so artificially. I think that's just poor form anyway. Additionally, this was a quick campaign. And now it was a quick campaign, by the way, because of like they needed to with the license. Okay, so I get licenses can force certain things, but they didn't have to force this. Right, so you are now in a situation where you're being forced to run a very quick campaign, and you're forced to do it now, okay? But you're also saying if you don't back now, screw you. Which is, again, a crappy thing to say, and that's really what that's saying. You're gonna spin it however you want, but that's what it says. That's how the backer feels, like stumbles in late. If you were on a cruise ship during this time, let's say you were out on vacation to Hawaii, it's winter, you're having the holidays over there, you come back, you're like, I love Vampire Masquerade. I'm a huge backer of their previous thing. What did Flyos do? Oh, I'm gonna late back. Oh, I don't get the stretch goals because I just happen to not be here. If you were in the hospital and you were like, I'm released from the hospital, I'm gonna back this game. Oh, I'm too late. Oh man, now I don't get the stretch goals. Well, guess what? Screw you. You weren't there in time. The FOMO and driving that FOMO is not something I'm okay with. You need to be able to make money and run your business without pushing so hard to back now, back now, back now. You should be happy to take their money, whether it's retail, whether it's in the Pledge Manager, or whether it's on Kickstarter. All three of those are your paying customers, and you should treat them as close to the same as you possibly can. As close to the same. Just because maybe I'm living paycheck to paycheck, but I've been saving my pretty pennies and I don't quite have enough saved, and I don't want to lose paying my rent, or I don't want to have to not heat my house because I live in the UK and there's expensive heating over there. My patrons told me so. But I'm saving up to pay, but I don't quite have it enough. Well, guess what? Screw you. You got to do it now. Either go cold in your house or pay now. I don't like that. I don't like running a company as that. I don't know a company that... I don't know why you would feel okay being that way. This is bad. This is not good. This is driving FOMO. It's pushing it to back now, back now, back now. Not okay with it. Just because you have to launch now does not mean you have to also say that everybody that didn't happen to have the money, didn't happen to know, or just wasn't committed enough quite yet, you are now lesser. Less to us. Your money means less to us now. You better pay more for the same stuff. Not okay. Not okay in my book. That is a poor attitude to have to your backers. My opinion. That goes for any company. Any company. Okay, but still, it gets worse then, because this was posted November 28th. Now, if you didn't know, this campaign was launched on the 15th. And then they were asked, because it wasn't obvious. Well, if you come here to this right here, and it says last updated, but either way, it was November 24th. They clarified this stuff after that because it wasn't obvious, because none of their competitors, not none, 99% of their competitors don't do this. Consumers that are on Kickstarter are used to just getting stretch goals, used to being able to back $1, because normally the company appreciates them still being there and hopes that they will increase their pledge either naturally or in the Pledge Manager, where they actually get a higher percentage of the funds. Okay, but there's more than that, right? They did launch the Survive Until Daylight in between this, because they still have not delivered chapters. Now they will deliver chapters, but they ran this boat close. They had to make different add-ons to kind of raise funds for shipping. Otherwise, you're going to have to charge for shipping. And then there were some personal loans. Now, they did that as a safety net, which is good. However, it does show that they made no money. There's no profit here in chapters. And if they didn't make any profit there, and then they're launching this, and then they're launching this because of contractual obligations, which is fine, but still, and then pushing on the FOMO thing, I do get that little bit of worry in here, right? I get that little bit of, this might be a little risky. I fear that there are so many companies that are just one anasteer away from failure. And I think that's a lot of companies. It's hard to run a company right now. It sucks for companies. They have my fullest sympathies, but my money is my money. So I'm covering this. It is linked down below. Feel free to back it. I highly think everything will be fine moving on to the future, and it's all okay. But stuff like that, along with kind of the attitude, sours me on backing stuff like this. And so I want to kind of talk through that. I want to talk through both negativity, shipping, crappy situations, heating in the UK prices, all that other kind of stuff. It's just messy. That's all it really is. That's it, guys. That's all I had. If you have any comments, if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, or if you know about a game that's coming up that I haven't covered yet, or want to make sure that I do, or that's available that other people might want to know, feel free to let us know in the comments below. I would love to add that to the list, a major list, down in the description below. It's more than what I just talked about. It's a whole bunch of stuff down there. Go and check that out. Guys, have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care, guys.